happened in Los Angeles is not new or strange. The beating of Rodney King is an everyday event in black folks' lives in some city in America, even as I speak. Some black body is being crushed under the weight of blows by a police department that seeks to be judge, jury, and executioner over somebody who is suspected of a crime. You say that a man is innocent until proved guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but if you're black in America, you're guilty. When they put their hands on you, you're guilty. They don't bring you before a judge to adjudicate the matter. They judge you there with the stick, with the gun, with naked brutality and the misuse of their authority. My appeal to those of you in authority is that you do justice while justice is in your hands to do. Because in a few moments from now, it won't be in your hands anymore. And when that happens, that will be a very hard day for those in authority, no matter what color we are. When God's Spirit moves among the people, and the people say, enough is enough, and too much is too much, and they determine to rise against unjust authority, then the end of that authority has come. There are no guns big enough to keep you in power, as the lessons of history will teach any of you who study history. When your time has come, when your evil outweighs your good, to the point that the God of righteousness becomes angry over your evil that you are dishing out to poor and defenseless people, and he decides to take up the cause of the poor, then your days are numbered. And as Daniel read the handwriting on the wall written in blood, he will say your kingdom has been weighed in the balance and has been found wanting. I was inspired to deliver a message to you today, and a warning to you today. My young brothers who do not realize that death stands at the door. The reason I chose this subject, death, stands at the door, because early one morning last week, I awakened and turned on the television to see the news, to see how many more American soldiers were killed in Iraq due to the blunder and the arrogance and the folly of the President of the United States. And as I was turning the dial, I saw what was a documentary on Attica prison and the rebellion that took place at Attica and the black brothers who were killed as a result of their trying to get better treatment, even though they were prisoners. They wanted better treatment in that hellhole called Attica prison. As a young minister of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I taught in all of the prisons in New York State, including Attica, many of the federal penitentiaries throughout the United States of America, and state prisons, from Folsom on the West Coast to Attica, Green Haven, Sing Sing on the East Coast, to Rayford Prison in Florida, prisons in Alabama, prisons in Texas. And in all of the prisons into which I was blessed to go to meet our brothers, in every prison there were Muslims, persons striving to follow the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, persons who united under those circumstances and were persecuted under those circumstances, and who under those circumstances fought the prison authorities legally and had the religion of Islam as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad recognized as a religion, so that the Muslims in prison could receive some of the fair treatment that other religious groups had been receiving. Muslims paid a great price in prison for that right. Looking at that television and reflecting on my work in the prisons, I paid even closer attention to the documentary because I was involved in that drama that took place at Attica. Prior to the Attica uprising, there was an uprising in the prison in Queens, New York, and they sent for Brother Farrakhan to mediate the dispute. When I went into the prison, there were members of the Panther Party, members of the Nation of Islam, and just black men who were tired of the mistreatment under the security personnel at the prison. So they had taken several white guards as hostages. I knew from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that when you deal with the enemy, you have to deal wisely and quickly, because he's an impatient kind of human being, and his nature is like fire, and yours is more like water. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, as it takes 212 degrees Fahrenheit to boil water, alcohol boils at about 160 or so degrees. And so he compared the nature of the white man, or the nature of the Caucasian, and the nature of the black man as two different natures with two different boiling points. So going into the prison and talking to the brothers, I told them that I thought that it would be wise for them to negotiate as quickly as possible and let the gods go, and that I would even trade places with the gods, and they could hold me hostage until we could negotiate a settlement. They said no. Some of my Panther brothers who were at odds at that time with the nation wanted to hold on to the gods, and I told them that you don't have much time. So it would be wise for you to get what you can out of this, because if you go beyond a certain time, you will meet the wrath of this enemy. They rejected my guidance, and maybe 12 hours later, those brothers were beaten almost to death in that prison. So when Attica was boiling, they sent for me. And as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I would not go any place without his consent. So I called him and he said, yes, brother, go. As I was preparing to go, I got a call from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, no, brother, they seem to be handling it pretty well. Don't go. I said, yes, sir. As time went on, the situation degenerated. The brothers called again for me. And I called the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again. And he said, all right, brother, go. The governor of the state of New York, Rockefeller, was sending a plane for me to fly me from New York City up to Attica prison, which is near the Canadian border, that I might do what I could to intervene. And just as I was about to leave to get on that plane, I got another call from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he said, no, brother, don't go. Now, it's a wonderful thing to have a leader on whom you can rely and in whom you can put trust to obey. In truth, I wanted to go. In truth, I wanted to do whatever I could to ease the situation of our brothers who had now taken part of the prison and had many white hostages, and the Muslims stood around the white hostages knowing that if the brothers in their anger killed the hostages, then all of them would die, because the enemy is just that kind of person. So the Muslims were guarding the hostages and negotiating. So when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me the second time, don't go, I couldn't tell him I want to go, although that was my heart. I just said, yes, sir. And in less than 24 hours, they were killing our brothers wholesale. Now, at that time in the state of New York, Farrakhan was very well known, had a huge following in New York City and Harlem, and the governor well knew my activities. And even though we did not vote, as God is my witness, I could call every black elected official, and they would respond to my call and be in my office, even though I never had voted, because they understood even if I didn't vote, I had that kind of strength with the masses of our people. It could have been that they wanted me up in it so that I wouldn't be able to stand before you today. And it would be so easy for them to say, well, he was negotiating, something happened, and it's very unfortunate. You know how they do. It's unfortunate, but the man you know as Louis Farrakhan is dead. When I saw the slaughter, I literally wept, because I wondered if I could have gone, could I in any way have made a difference and saved some precious lives of some very beautiful black men. The horror of that documentary, though, was this happened about 35 years or 30 years ago. We didn't know the full story. But in the documentary, I could see looking back more than I saw, because the news media was translating what was going on. And Assemblyman Arthur Eve of Buffalo, New York, who was a friend of mine, came to tell me what he saw, but he didn't see the whole thing. But now, looking back in a documentary, the worst slaughter took place after the slaughter. Because once they had taken control of the prison, or retaken control, the horror that they put on the brothers. It touched me so deeply last week, because it gave me again a reminder of the nature of the enemy in whose hands we are and what we are about to face. Since you young people don't know the enemy, you don't know him. You don't know him like your father and your grandfather and your great-grandfather. You are out here romancing with the children of the enemy, who are also enemies.